Hello everybody, welcome back to This Old Cook. If it's your first time here, then just welcome. I've got Mrs. B, Mrs. This Old Cook with me again today. We're going to be using the mincemeat that we made in a recipe the other week and show you how to make some festive mince pies. So I'll hand you over to Mrs. This Old Cook.
So this is my very quick and easy method of making mince pies. It's not quite a pastry, it's not quite a shortbread. It's a cross between the two, and it doesn't involve any rolling out. So we start off with 250 grams of plain flour and 200 grams of block butter. So this is just anchor block butter, and I've just cut it up slightly as I've weighed it. I'm going to start off with a fork just to start to rub this in together. So just breaking up the butter into the flour, just trying to separate it and push it out a bit. Once I've got it started, I will go in with my hands, which are of course clean. So broken up the butter a little there. So in with the hands. Now, when I was at school, I was taught that rubbing in involved fingertips only, and you would have the palms of your hands inspected to make sure there was no butter or flour on the palms of your hands. So lifting it, making sure you've got a bit of air in there and that you are getting all the lumps out of the butter. Before I made a start on this, I've put my oven on. So the oven is at 200 degrees C, 180 fan, 390 Fahrenheit, gas mark 6. So I'd get told off for that bit there, getting it into my palms. But however you do it, you can get gadgets for pastry making that will cut through it, but I find that they just get stuck up and they are quite sharp. So I prefer just to use my fingertips, getting all that butter rubbed into the flour. As you can see, very few lumps of butter left. It's important that it does all end up looking a little bit like fine breadcrumbs. So I think we're about there. I'm not going to bother cleaning my hands off because I am going to go back in with them in a second. So I'm going to give a little sprinkle of salt in there and then bring in my caster sugar. This is just white caster sugar. You can use golden caster sugar if you like. And I've got 70 grams here. So that's going to go in. I'll bring the fork in to mix that up and just go in with your hands. Okay, so that's giving it all a good mix up, distributing that sugar. And now right back in with my hands, and I'm just going to bring the whole mix together, kneading it slightly, but I don't want to get the mixture too warm. It's not quite as crucial with this as it is with pastry that you keep your mix cold. It's quite a good recipe to use with children as well because it is so simple. So just turning it over, gathering up the crumbs, and it's going nicely into a ball of dough. Okay. So that's there. Now it's a nice big ball of dough. I'm just going to, just by eye, break this into 1/3 and 2/3. So I think I'm probably about right there. And I'm just going to set the 1/3 piece to one side. Now with the mixture that I've got left, I'm going to make this into 12 pieces. So I'm going to break that in half. And then 1, 2, 3. It's all very much guesstimation. They need to be about the size of, almost recipes say, a walnut. So just sitting there in the palm of my hand. So I'm just going to roll that slightly and then press with the base of my hand, press it out into my palm just to start flattening it. And then I'm going to bring in my patty tin. Now this is a very nice tin for mince pies. As you can see, the bottom of the holes are domed rather than having flat sides. But if you've only got a flat-sided one, as long as it's not too deep, it needs to be a shallow one. And I'm going to put my piece of dough into there and start to just spread it out. Take my next piece, size of a walnut, press it with the base of my hand, base of my thumb, into the hole, start to press it out. So I will do this until all 12 are complete. So that's all 12 now ready with the bases in place. And while my hands were sticky doing that, I've also balled up the remaining dough into 12 smaller pieces, which will form the lids. So I've got the jars of mincemeat that we made last week. And we're just going to put a generous teaspoon into each. So as you can see, the mincemeat is probably stickier than that you get commercially. So don't overfill it too much, but we'll just even these sort of out a bit. So just level that out slightly, top it up if needs be, but don't overfill, otherwise it will just seep out in the cooking process and make the edge of the pie not look very pleasant. Okay, so now I'll take the smaller pieces of dough again, rub them in my hands, and this time squash it out a little bit more carefully to try and make a circle. Peel it off, a bit like mini pizza, and we're just going to put it in place. Okay, so we just bring it round to the edges. There's no need to seal the edges of these. They will, because they've got a high fat content, they will do that all by themselves. Again, one of the joys of this recipe. So just work it around a little bit just to make the right size. And you can just spread it out. So one more, palm of my hand, base of my thumb, and just pressing it out into a circle. Peel it off, shape it back round a little more, and pop it on top. So that's the tops now on, as you can see. Just put in place and gently pressed around the edges. These won't look like pretty shop-bought mince pies. I think the best description is probably rustic, but I think these are the tastiest mince pies you will ever have. So in my little bowl here, just whisking up a small egg, and we're just going to egg wash them. If you want to leave the mince pies and bake them later, then just pop them in the fridge and keep them cool until you are ready to cook them. If you want to freeze them at this stage before you put the egg wash on. And then when you are ready to cook, just bring them out of the freezer, let them thaw, pop the egg wash on, and you're ready to go. So nicely beaten egg, and just a quick brush over. So this is just to give a nice glaze, it's not to seal the edges. So in this dough will do that all by itself. It will spread out and hopefully seal itself. So we're ready to bake. The oven is up at temperature and I will put these in for 20 minutes. So the mince pies had 20 minutes in the oven. I brought them out and just popped them on the side for 5 or 6 minutes just to let the dough settle itself and for the pies to cool slightly. I've then just run the end of a teaspoon around the edges just to make sure they are loose. This is very short, so it's more of a shortbread than a short pastry. So I've done that with all of them. They are loose, so wish me luck. So the pan is just cool enough to handle. Over we go. Oh, there's one left. There it is. Phew. So nicely rounded, nicely browned, short, easy mince pies. There will be a link to the recipe and to the recipe for the mincemeat.